What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. My awesome guest today is Jimmy House. He is the founder of Team House Strong. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Together, we talk about a variety of different options of training. We talk about rehab from injuries, specifically knees. We talk about professional wrestling and his recent move to Austin and what it comes with. Enjoy the episode. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Glad to be back in the new studio.
Dude, it's been crazy.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for having me, both
Yeah.
you guys.
No, it's our pleasure, bro. It was an easy choice. And it's funny because you were the last one in the last setup that we had,
Right.
which was in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who, I think our audience has probably shifted quite dramatically since our last conversation, we used to do the podcast in the gym, and we would set everything up, which took about an hour, and then take it all down, which
I
took
remember
about an
that.
hour.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare, dude. It was the worst. I'm so happy we got out of that. Oh, by the way, I come bearing gifts.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Here.
Thank you.
Protein bars and candy.
Thank you
Merry
so
Christmas,
much.
buddy.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you guys. I
Yeah, so
appreciate
this won't air for probably, what, a couple weeks?
Yeah, this one will be probably like the first of the year, actually. So,
that. Okay, perfect.
if there's any New Year's resolutions, let's hear it.
I haven't
Put you
even
guys on the
thought about
spot.
that. Do you do any New Year's resolutions? Do you have
No,
anything?
but I would like to enter the new year with a working leg. That's my New Year resolution for sure.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Yeah, so I was training with one of my good friends, Austin, a couple of weeks ago. He was getting ready for Nogi Worlds, and just basically we're doing takedowns on the feet. And honestly, I don't know, it's a superstition thing now, but every single time someone has announced, like, all right, last round, like, yeah, last round, like, not knock on wood. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know you said not to do that. Knock on wood. It's like guaranteed something happens. Like the last two times I popped my knee, it's when they're like, all right, one more round. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then like, but yeah, he went in for like what's called an outside trip, where he comes in and tries. You're familiar. He comes in and try to basically trip my ankle on the ground. He missed, came into my knee, and then we both went down.
You have the video of this.
I do, yeah.
Can you send it to Eli to show to the screen? It's not bad, bro, but it'll show what happened. Okay, so we're back. Perfect. Okay, so Jimmy sent me this video. It hasn't come yet, so maybe not 3, 2, 1. Did you take? Okay, I sent it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so let's see if we can. Yeah. Okay, so do you see it, Eli?
Oh.
Hang on. We'll do it again. Are you ready?
Well, you may or may not want to.
Boom! Right there.
Is the audio that goes with it if you.
Does it have audio?
It does. It's very explicit.
I don't know if audio will go through the mirror, but you can. Okay, so what is it? It's MCL?
I think so. We had the MRI Thursday. It hasn't come back yet.
I'm off, Eli.
But the majority of my restriction and pain is on the inside of the knee.
On the inside.
Yeah. And I was just telling Brandon earlier, it's just kind of one of those unfortunate things that just kind of come with the sport. It's not very often, but it is a possibility. And, Austin and I are just such good friends, and he felt so bad about it afterwards. And, it's super unfortunate because I was in a position not too long ago where I actually accidentally tore my best friend's ACL during a takedown sequence as well.
Okay.
And it's just, unavoidable sometimes, just a freak accident.
Is it? Because I had the only time I've ever had anything knee related, again, knock on wood, I've had really good history with my knees, was in a very, very intoxicated amateur jiu-jitsu backyard wrestling. I tore my LCL
really?
3/4 of the way.
Wow, okay.
Are knees just magnets for jiu-jitsu injuries? Is that just a really common place for that kind of thing to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the takedown sequences that happen, obviously there's a lot of, in order to gain leverage on some of these legs, realistically, if you're taking them down by the legs, usually the knees or the ankles are going to be where you're grabbing or trying to manipulate. And in this particular case, flinging your entire body towards somebody's leg and accidentally landing on my knee, that's kind of, a no-brainer. So it just it's unfortunate for sure, but I've learned a lot through the process, and I think it gives me an opportunity to kind of practice what I preach in a lot of ways in regards to training and being able to regress movements and progress them forward again and stuff like that. So luckily, to your point, I don't have any knee issues. I generally think my knees are very healthy and very functional, but in this particular case, things happen. So make the most out of it. I do think that a lot of the work that I put in prior in regards to knee bulletproofing and whatnot set me up for a better outcome if there was one in this particular case, with some of the things. In regards to when I tore my best friend's ACL, I shot in on a double leg and literally just his foot got caught in the mat and I pulled with my hand, and then that's when everything blew. So in this case, like, to me, much worse, but he wasn't able to walk on it afterwards. Like, he immediately collapsed. I actually was able to walk up my stairs by myself until I got stiff.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's a generally good sign. Maybe a partial tear in there, nothing fully torn.
You're waiting on your MRI results today. Is that what?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So
let us know what happens, because I'm curious.
Will do.
What do you, as far as, I want to talk about what you're going to do now, but as far as prehab and what you do, you mentioned bulletproofing knees. What do you do to minimize injury for that site? And I say minimize because anyone involved in high intense activities like jiu-jitsu, like snowboarding, anything like that, you're almost never guaranteed elimination of injury. Yeah. It's almost guaranteed that it will happen in some form or another. But doing certain things can minimize the outcome when those injuries happen. What do you see as that?
So it basically comes down to mitigating the potential outcome of the injury. Like, are you fully blown through and you can't stand up afterwards, or are you able to at least pull yourself off? And I think that's like, and in past, if I've had a knee pop, it's been something where like I was freaked out that it would be worse, and then like in 3 to 4 days I was back to full flexion again. So I think it helps speed up recovery because your body has a very high reference to try to meet and match again. And then in regards to just strengthening the joints and ligaments through a lot of those movements that we'll get into, I think there is some justice to be served in that department, which we talked about this last time, the argument between, full range of motion and 90-degree training, and trying to find a middle ground between the two. I think in regards to jiu-jitsu, it is very beneficial to train full range of motion in a majority of movements, especially if you don't have any prior training, just because of the fact that the positions that you get into are so unpredictable, as you see,
that's a perfect. That couldn't be a better example. You're in so much flexion there that it literally tore. But
if you go back to the video, the main thing that I reference there when I look at it is the hip mobility that I've gained in recent months, being able to basically be in a very extreme hurdler stretch.
Yeah.
And when we come down at the very end, when we land on the ground, that's where my knee popped. But let's say, had I not had the hip mobility to even land like that, my knee would have taken the impact much sooner. If you can kind of see what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So if I if I didn't have the mobility to get my leg out that far, my knee would have taken the pressure much sooner, which could have been a complete blow through, and whatever comes from that.
Worst case scenario, you might have been looking at a replacement. You could have had to do cadaver. That's what they told me the next thing was. They're like, yeah, you tore your LCL almost all the way. If you tear this all the way, you have to do a cadaver, and that's like a year rehab and recovery.
Yeah, terrible. So my I guess my last point in regards to this for anyone listening is, the training, there's nothing that's going to 100% keep away injury, but there's ways to control how serious it is. So in that case, adding mobility may not directly make the joint or the ligament stronger, but it may give you like an extra half or a second to react, to move your body in such a way that naturally takes a little bit less pressure off the joint when put in that bad position. And to me, that's kind of what happened in that case. Just, I was able to buy myself an extra second to where the impact came like right at the very end versus like right in the middle. And, I'm able to walk into the podcast room as opposed to being wheelchaired in.
Touching in. Yeah, making the problematic area a little bit less problematic. So you mentioned that doing mobility doesn't actually affect the strength of the ligaments or the muscles, but what would you say does?
So maybe that's not 100% how I meant it. I think there's definitely correlation as far as like how it can and strengthen through length of joints and ligaments and everything like that. I necessarily wouldn't equate doing like splits or being able to do specific stretches as to like having strong joints per se. But in this particular case, even if the joint wasn't as strong as the surrounding muscles, if you're able to be mobile enough to get into a funky position, the joint takes the pressure in that particular case like last versus like the muscles, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, it does make sense. So would you say that when you do mobility training, do you target one area more than others specific to your activities?
I try to be as evenly as I can, which then means I assess the areas that I feel like I'm already very mobile in, more so maintenance those, and then maybe hyper focus on the areas that I feel like I'm really lagging in, which prior to that incident, it was generally like hips, adductors, abductors. I just, for so long when I was deep into the powerlifting world,
Shoulders, knees.
yeah, the shoulders have come a long way. I feel pretty confident in my shoulders. The hips, honestly, are my weakest point.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I
That's
got
common.
Yeah.
Hips are probably the worst, I would say, of most, at least of the people I see. Hips are the most immobile.
Right.
Knees, I think, oftentimes struggle with strength, less than mobility.
Mhm.
Most people have, I think, decent, because
Right.
it's only flexion and extension.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a whole range of motion they can do. But hips are almost always locked
Yeah.
in some way.
For me, coming from powerlifting, just basically hyper focusing on squats and deadlifts and bench, and not necessarily focusing on the muscles that keep everything together or make those movements just long term as opposed to in the moment. So for me, I noticed how much I actually neglected it when I started changing my training style to that. Just hips are extremely tight, and I found where just having those tight hits led to problems elsewhere. Hips are like in the center of the body for the most part, so it causes problems running up, as you know, and running down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
100%. Yeah. No, I think it's what separates. I know we talked about this in the last episode, and we made a very important point that we didn't want to repeat all the same topics from last time. So I even went back and rewatched it. But one thing that we talked about that I think is very applicable to this is creating the idea of the well-rounded athlete. The what is like the perfect human male or female, like where's the balance between, you have a background in powerlifting, now you're doing jiu-jitsu, you got to keep some of those movements from powerlifting, the strength training aspect, but then you got to add the mobility. Where would you say that balance falls for jiu-jitsu? Would you say most people need to add strength or need to add mobility if they were to come into it?
I would assume that most people that are getting into jiu-jitsu probably have some form of strength training, even if it's just being like a hobbyist fitness enthusiast at the gym. So for the most part, that generally means you either don't know how to add mobility or you just haven't focused on it, because mobility isn't the sexy or aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So you're mostly just working on your mirror muscles for the most part. So I usually find that's where most people are lagging, like being unable to bend in a certain way or having certain submissions get tighter faster than normal. A lot of times people come in and there's body awareness. That's a component, obviously. But like if you ask them to get in a specific position, they just physically can't. After a while of doing jiu-jitsu, they eventually get there. But yeah, the mobility is definitely something that, and you can then argue that working on your mobility then also works on your strength at the same time if done properly and progressed properly.
Sure.
Getting into the last conversation without doing into it too much, I just think to that point, the perfect athlete for jiu-jitsu is doing a decent amount of full range movements, 90-degree movements, isometric movements, like just having a little bit of everything, because in jiu-jitsu, if you were to watch a high level match, you're going to see a little bit of everything in regards to like a 90-degree angle, generating power from that position, whether it be a takedown or whatever, being in full flexion or extension in a given submission or a given type of guard, or in isometrics, just like, let's say I take somebody's back and I'm trying to hold this or do a choke, that's, isometrics to a T. So it's important to have a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Have you found, on the topic specifically of the injury you're dealing with, a ligament strength, have you found that there are any supplements that specifically can target and benefit the ligaments of the body? I read somewhere that collagen supplements have a direct correlation to that. Have you done any research into that or looked at that at all?
So that's where I just started dating my girlfriend when I had the podcast last time. That's where she actually has a lot of expertise in supplements and nutrition and stuff. She's helped me with a few basic supplements that I think help, at least like it can't hurt. So I've just done your basic glucosamine, chondroitin. The collagen is something that I was going to ask her about to look into just after working over the weekend with one of my friends, Flex Lewis's brother, Luke Lewis. He's a strength and conditioning coach. He was just talking about how certain exercises help promote like collagen to the muscle and how to just kind of restable it and stuff like that, the joint rather.
Nice.
So that's something I want to look into. I can't give you a direct answer.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't say that I do anything more than just glucosamine and chondroitin and omega-3. There's like beetroot that she has me try, fatty acids and stuff like that. So those are like the basics of what I do for the most part.
I mean, everyone knows protein supplements help with protein synthesis. Is there any type of protein that you do take protein post-workout? Is there anything that you prefer over another? What exactly is your regimen following training?
I honestly am not as good about being on like powdered protein as far as like developing a habit.
Yeah.
If I do use protein, it's going to be Fueled. Josh, you had him on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like theirs a lot. Great tasting, and they have.
Josh is doing good.
Mhm.
How's he doing? I
Good,
see you guys
good.
on sparring together all the time.
Yeah, good. He's doing great. Yeah,
Awesome.
he helps me with wrestling a lot. Obviously, we have the Powerhouse pre-workout we're working on now
Yep.
and stuff like that. So, but for the most part, and that's where Lawson, my girlfriend, came into play. She's just helped me, I guess, explore wider boundaries in regards to eating very whole foods, but actually liking it enough to stay consistent with it. So, but I've switched to a lot of ground beef and steak, and I've kept the turkey in for the most part, not a whole lot of chicken, but for and a lot of eggs. I've actually, to Andrew, you had him on the show.
Yeah.
I see his stories about eating 12 eggs a day or something like that. I usually find myself eating about 8. So I'll just, whatever meals that she meal preps for me, I'll throw in like 4 eggs in that meal and just add it as a source of extra fat and protein. But
I tell you, I just started doing raw living food meal prep delivery, and it has changed everything for me.
Really?
Not even, I mean, the food is outstanding because they're local to Arizona, which I know you're moving.
Okay,
we got to talk about that in a second too. But they do everything. I feel like half the problem, more than half the problem, I would say probably 70 to 80% of the problem with people's meal plans is to what you just said. They can't follow them. They're not consistent. Maybe they even have the determination to do it. Just the time to actually execute it is where they fall short.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a big reason why supplements, which I as a whole am not a huge fan of supplements just beginning and end. I like food, real food over supplements every time. But I think supplements have a big appeal because they're quick, because they're fast and they're convenient. Real food, and that's why being partnered up with this raw living food has changed my life personally in a way. I was probably spending anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours a day cooking, cleaning, prepping, and eating. I mean, that was sincere about each day. I clocked it toward the end of that, and realizing how much more time I have now.
Right.
They do every meal I want. They put it in a container. They give it to me. It's like $12 to $14 a meal.
Nice.
So I don't really think you're saving that much money when you don't go a route like that. I mean, if you go to the grocery store, or certainly if you eat out, you're going to spend more.
Yeah.
But it's the time. The time it takes you to cook and prep and eat is a huge chunk of your afternoon.
Totally.
It just is.
Yeah.
So I think getting involved with a company like that for someone like yourself would be a total hack. It will, I'm sure it'll impact you the same way it impacts me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know Josh has his raw meat company and stuff like that. I kind of just basically pay my girlfriend to buy the meals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's very creative with the recipes and everything. So yeah, I'll have to mention that to her.
Yeah,
sure.
It's just a total hack for the day. It just adds time, and so I think that's where a lot of people just can't do it because they don't have it. They don't have the time, and it just helps me with everything.
Right.
So you're out of here, man. You're leaving AZ. Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I right on that?
As far as this is decent, March is going to be the plan to take a trip to Austin, Texas, and stay there for a couple of years at least, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Why Austin?
A lot of things going on there. So we may have talked about it on the last podcast, but I do still have my WWE aspirations that I'm pursuing. With that said, one of my good friends, Goldberg, is a WWE Hall of Famer, lives about 90 minutes away in Texas, and I want to continue building a friendship with him. The last time I was out there, he gave me the blessing of being able to actually train his son, who's a junior in high school, playing football and everything. So that was a great experience. And just being around people like him, and then there's the pro wrestling training center I have here is amazing. Coach Don Vitale, but he's recommended me a few good places out there to help further expedite that process. And then along with that, just you may or may not know, but jiu-jitsu is like the mecca now in Austin.
Yeah.
Like the 2 or 3 best teams.
Rogan is in Austin.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
See, Joe Rogan's in Austin.
Yeah, so he has like Gordon Ryan on there and everything. And my plan is to earn the opportunity to train with them, Gordon Ryan's team and John Danaher and everything like that.
Wow.
I did get the opportunity to train with them the last time I was there. I had Gordon had sent me an invite, as well as my friend Mike to come in, and that was an amazing experience. So leaving that one, I was like, pursue pro wrestling, pursue other things, but I definitely, as much as I've invested into jiu-jitsu, especially with this guy, I want to be able to say that I trained with the best in the world, and hopefully be able to compete and show for it. That's the other thing. And then just as an entrepreneur or business owner, or I'm going to be launching an online coaching business here soon with my friends.
That's awesome.
So
us too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Same thing. Yeah.
There you go. So now over there, in the fields that I'm in, the potential for growth is the ceiling is just much, much higher realistically for the things that we do.
For online coaching?
Not necessarily online coaching, but being around people to help continue to grow myself as far as like my notoriety or my likeness, and then using that to leverage an online coaching business.
Yeah.
And that's not my main reason for moving out there. It's more so just a byproduct of everything else going on. But
Austin is great from what I've heard. I've only been once, but it's been years. You spent a fair amount of time. Remind me, where was TCU in relation to Austin?
Yeah, so I was in Fort Worth. I was actually like a few hours from Austin.
That's like Dallas kind of ish, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I made the mistake of actually never going to Austin. All
so
4
you've
years.
never been?
Yeah, no, I made that mistake.
We might have to make a trip out there. There's a lot of people out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just Rogan. There's a lot of big podcasters.
Friedman, Friedman's out there. I'm not sure who else. I'm sure there's tons of other people.
I know Dude Perfect is in Dallas.
I don't actually know. Maybe I do.
You don't know who Dude Perfect is?
Maybe.
You know who Dude Perfect is?
I know I've heard of it.
Do you have his Instagram? Can you show us it?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
But okay, so you've got this move, you've got this expansion into online coaching. They're happening at the same time, relatively?
Just about, yeah. So Josh is actually helping me set that up between all the things I need to know on the business side of things, so that he's very helpful in that department.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and that's honestly, if I'm being straightforward, that's like the thing that's kept me from doing it for the longest time, just not wanting to deal with the hassle. But now it's a position where I'm glad I'm moving because it pushes me to do this, to stop avoiding it, just call myself out on it and move forward.
Interesting.
So
it forces you to do online coaching by moving.
I've always wanted to do it because I've always thought that I could do it successfully, but it's just as far as getting it all set up and getting the legalities figured out.
Yeah, I recognize him. Sorry, I'm just
no problem.
Yeah, I recognize him.
Yeah.
Wow, good for him. 58,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, they make a lot of videos at TCU actually.
Oh, nice.
Oh, sick.
Damn, that's a lot.
So you've got the push. In what way does the move correlate to the online coaching?
Just because I'm going to obviously need a consistent source of income out here. I have my in-person clients and everything, but
so are you no longer doing in-person training?
I am. I'm slowly migrating out of it, basically, to where like I'm starting to develop my own clientele for online coaching here in Arizona. So I have a decent handful, and then start trying to really boom it and market it once we go out there. So
yeah, we're along a almost identical path.
That's
aside
awesome.
from the move, obviously, I can in no way, shape, and form ever move.
Right,
But but the online training aspect for guys like us, because we've been in-person trainers for about the same amount of time, I think. And when you get I wouldn't say, I hate the word comfortable, but when you get comfortable doing what you like and what you love, that's the other reason why I was always a little hesitant to branch into this, because I love in-person. That's where I think I thrive. That's my favorite, is working with it.
I agree.
And I didn't want to do it until I knew that I could do it really well, because I feel like too many people just jump into it. Too many coaches go from in-person to online just by deciding to do it. They're like, you know what, I'll just throw some money against the wall and see what happens. And usually they get it. If they're a decent name, if they've got a good in-person presence, they'll have a nice ROI. They'll be able to get some in-person and online coaches to go together. But it really was with the interaction of our podcast co-host who can't be here, Jake. He is going to kind of spearhead and run online training on our end. Cool. And so having someone else like that to come in and help, that's where I kind of made the decision. I'm like, okay, you know what? Yeah, all right, we can now do this successfully and properly, because you don't ever want to just sort of do it just for the money. I never like doing anything like that. And that's the problem with online coaching, is there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's no ceiling.
I've heard about a few things, especially where you start to flirt with the line of maintaining moral and ethics and everything like that with a lot of people out there, So
keep following those 9 ancestral tenets, man. You see where that takes you.
Right. That's the topic.
You imagine that just being like the standard of what never to do?
Yeah, I know. Wow.
It's like, well, we're not doing that. All right, we're okay. We're just not going to go that right. It's that's the standard of exactly what never to go, or a big.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with some of the videos that's come out since the exposure. So yeah.
Has he been on anyone? Has anyone had him like back on?
Yes.
I mean, podcasts. They have.
So there's a theory I heard Nsima say it, is his theory is basically he basically let it slip out on purpose. Just because like everyone's talking about it, and I've seen people bring him on to essentially say his piece on it, and very big YouTube channels and everything, and I haven't kept up with his followers, but I have to assume he's at least gained something from it, if not just general exposure. Yeah, which
A
is
sad reality.
I
Yeah.
told you that same thing. I mean, I don't think this will actually negatively affect anything that they're doing over there. I mean, if anything, he's getting so much recognition with Joe Rogan, just
Yeah.
mentioning who the
Right.
Liver King is.
Uh-huh.
He's blown up since this.
Yeah.
Like,
Mention him,
exponentially.
but I know Rogan's pretty adamant about wanting nothing to do with him. Rogan said he'll never have him on. He's
which ironically still helps him out.
yeah, I know
Exactly.
I'll never have that. Who is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me go look this guy up. He'll never have him on.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go on YouTube and you type in Liver King, there's every single channel has him. I mean, even we did a podcast with Brandon Copeland, and one of the topics was the Liver King. That's a YouTube video. I mean, everyone
Yeah.
and their mother is talking about the Liver King. And I
right.
mean, that's
Because yes,
huge.
and so what I've seen is like YouTubers are using the Liver King to leverage their channels too, because they know it's going to bring traffic. I saw Larry Wills do it, and a few other people. Just
We're doing it right now.
My opinion, like yeah, right. My opinion of the Liver King and just
Yeah.
whatever views that brings and stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting world.
It really goes to the topic of there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah,
I've never really held to that as closely as a lot of other people do. I mean, you look at here's a great example. Now I'm gonna butcher this because I don't know fashion. You will. Is it Balenciaga?
Yeah.
Okay. Balenciaga, you saw that, right? You follow that story at all?
I haven't. No,
You
actually.
haven't?
No.
Great. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
So Balenciaga released. Can you pull this up?
yeah. I'm trying to think because I mean it is a little touchy, so be sure to be careful of like how you bring it up.
Yeah,
but-
I'll just talk about what they did. He really needs to pull this up so you see what it was. Balenciaga, I don't know if you're like me, you seem a little bit more fashionable than I do,
Okay.
but Balenciaga is a big like Gucci or Prada. Am I right? They're like Gucci, Prada, like that
Right.
status of. And what they did,
Oh, interesting.
they released a ad campaign featuring young children in not. This isn't showing it. Maybe he can't find it. They might have taken it down.
I mean, some of that is actually it.
Okay, so that shows some of it. Okay, that's a good picture right there. So they pictured young children in bondage outfits, like sex
Yeah.
bondage outfits, and then they included documents, and that document right there, if I'm remembering correctly, is a court case that pertained to pedophilia.
Really?
So the argument, is there such thing as bad publicity? The outrage over that
Yeah.
has had them. People are like filming Balenciaga stores. There's no one in it. Their stocks took a dip like nobody's business. But the argument is being made. Well, okay, is this strategic? They had to know that by doing this, by
Yeah.
basically, promoting pedophilia,
Yeah.
that the outrage from the public would be insurmountable.
Yeah.
But in the long run, will that help them? Will people, because people like me, I didn't even know the name Balenciaga. I was like, what's that? I was like, oh, it's like Prada or Gucci or one of those. So
Right.
now I know who they are.
Uh-huh.
What kind of a company are you? Are you moral or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
But is it a good marketing strategy to villainize yourself on purpose?
Did they have a reason per se as to why they thought that was it?
They kind of shifted the blame towards the artist. They were like, oh, they did this photo shoot without our knowledge and everything. It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
Like
Is
you,
that
you
really
had
what
to
they
know.
said?
I'm pretty sure they shifted the blame to the actual artist who was like taking the photos and doing the whole marketing campaign. That was their goal, was to shift the blame.
I mean, I'm not a scientist
Yeah.
or anything, but they had to proofread it before it went out. No,
Oh,
I mean,
100%. I
yeah,
mean, it's
I mean,
BS.
yeah, you figure if a company is that big, they're smart enough to probably do something that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's going on the front
Yeah.
page of everything they put out.
And to your point, I mean that they probably exactly like know what they're doing, and that's why the Liver King thing. It's like, oh, an email got leaked. It's like, is it really that simple? That's what I thought. Is it really that simple? Like, if he was really trying to just stay away from the topic of PED use, like an email just slips. I don't know. That I was a little bit skeptical on it.
Go ahead.
I mean, well, I was going to mention, I mean, there's a lot of bad actors in every single space. To me, the Liver King, what he's promoting is not necessarily like the most evil thing. Like, there's people that are promoting like really crappy
Yeah.
things
Like
or
child
like bad techniques.
sex
Yeah.
promotion, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, what comes to mind, I actually watched like a full like documentary, kind of like the Liver King, but it's exposing. Are you familiar with V Shred? that fitness influencer. Do you guys know who that is?
I don't think so.
Is he the guy with all the tattoos?
Yes, and he's pretty shredded.
Yeah, he's
He has-
lean.
Yeah, he has ads everywhere. Apparently, there's like a huge scandal where he's actually he's a male model, and there's like a whole marketing campaign about him. But all he's doing is like copying what other influencers do when it comes to like their workouts and everything, and he like is not smart about it at all.
He's a cookie cut. He does online training. I know who he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's his big. People came after him for two reasons. I think they said he photoshopped himself, and they said that he was basically just selling cookie cutter programs
I see.
over and over and over
Yeah.
again. Which,
But-
I don't see that as. But
No,
I
no.
don't see that as. That's his thing. I mean, yeah,
No,
fine.
but a lot of the movements that he was doing, he was trying to create his own type of movements, and a lot of them were unsafe and like weren't actually doing what he claimed to have them do. So that was like the whole point.
Yeah.
Like you were promoting these unsafe movements, trying to basically get like fame. I mean,
but I mean,
there's an argument to be made.
there is. I still see it as a little bit behind. That's to me, that's a little bit behind Liver King and certainly behind Balenciaga. I mean, promoting unsafe movements. I mean, you could
Yeah.
you could probably come up with 5 people right now that are doing that. That we're like, oh yeah, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that movement. But
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
their
just
prerogative.
how you word a post, you could also argue that I mean, you could also argue that I've promoted unsafe movements if somebody thinks they can come in and do the weight or
Someone
whatever
could.
I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always try to put that in posts, like make sure that you regress this and start here and blah 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 and everything. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I saw you do a goblet squat once with like a 150-pound dumbbell or something, just like to a normal person.
Right.
They can't just do. You can't
Yeah.
just like copy that. That's an unsafe practice for
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see that as the same thing. I think you can promote things that are perhaps controversial, but I think that's a big difference than directly making yourself the villain on
Yeah.
purpose. Like
Yeah, totally.
like Balenciaga or the Liver King. I mean, that's
Two very different things, though. Come on.
very different.
Come
Very-
on.
the worst. The worst.
What one is he lied about taking steroids. The other is
You're right.
Yeah,
He-
what it is.
But it wasn't just that that's what everyone says. It's not just that he lied about doing PEDs. He lied about doing PEDs while promoting a supplement. I mean, if he's not right now being sued by so many people for false advertising, I just don't know how anyone.
That is interesting. I haven't thought about that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not just that he said he was clean. He's saying he's clean while saying that you're an idiot for not taking his supplements that made him look that way.
Yeah.
And he did that dozens of times. So that's where it gets kind of, if he'd have just never answered the question, then I don't think anybody really would have cared.
Yeah.
But it does say something to the ethics of the industry, and I think that's why most of the outrage over it did come from most of the real professionals in the
Yeah.
industry. I mean, I don't know anybody who, not Mark Bell, I don't know anybody who's still like, oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, he's a charlatan. Like, I assume you watched the Derek's video on it.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
That, and I saw when they talked about it on Mark Bell's and stuff too.
That's right. They
Yeah.
did have a podcast where they talked about it. Yeah, I gotta make sure we bring that up if Enzema comes on.
Yeah, I only saw the
that'd be
Joe
awesome.
Rogan. Did he go on Mark Bell? Derek?
Derek went on Mark Bell and then he went on Joe Rogan too. Yeah, and
He
they
did
talked
both.
about the same thing. And then from Mark's perspective, it's like, people backlash at him for like believing in him when he said it, or just I guess having a friendship with him. But then
Sure.
he has to go back and say like, hey, like I believed it, and it's like it puts other people in an unfair position too.
Sure.
I believe where Mark Bell doesn't have necessarily anything to do with his lie, but now
No.
he has to kind of backtrack and like clear the air on his beliefs towards it, and yeah.
Yeah,
It's
or Paul Saladino. That's an even closer one.
Mm.
I mean, have you seen any of his
No, I
responses or
haven't.
anything?
Uh-uh.
So yeah, I mean, he came out and he distanced himself big time from that, and I think he kind of had to, because he's the example of somebody who follows that kind of a diet, and whether or not he does all the other tenets, I don't know, but he definitely was partnered up with the Liver King, and they were, if nothing else, they were silent partners together on a lot of those supplement lines. So now he has to come out and really kind of damn the process that the Liver King went through to get to that place. And so that's really the only person that I kind of feel is in any way correlated with the Liver King. People get upset at Mark. Even Rogan was like, "How did Mark Bell not?" Now I'm like,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, it's not his job to
Yeah.
know. Like, it's
Yeah.
not anybody's job to regulate anybody. We're all adults.
Totally.
You're thousands of miles away. He met him once, I think.
Mhm.
So it's not Mark Bell's. It's not anybody's fault.
No.
It's just,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I actually had a curious question to change the subject a little bit.
Sure.
I know you're still waiting on your knee results. do you kind of know where you're going to be heading to actually rehab your knee to get back to where you were 2 or 3 months ago, or kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, so knock on wood. As long as I don't need any surgical assistance, I'm pretty confident in my ability to rehab on my own. Like the progress I've made in the last 2 weeks alone is very good. So generally, again, it's basically taking the stuff that I preached before and then just doing the regressions that I've taught 70-year-old women or people that are coming out of knee surgery themselves. So like I said before, it's an opportunity to be put in this place where versus a 10 plate backwards sled pull, I'm doing backwards walks for a couple weeks. That alone was a struggle, like limping, and that eventually progressed to yesterday. Now I'm doing 445s again, and it's going up. So to me, I'm going to basically just use it as an opportunity to further push the incentive of why I believe in the things that I do. Just because it's like you go into, a physical therapy place, and it's not that they aren't doing anything wrong per se, but it's just they're doing the same things that I would do on my own anyways for the most part. So, yeah.
Physical therapy locations, almost always from the ones I've seen, are missing key critical components that you'll typically find in a gym. And that's why I think the marriage we're making between what we have and what we're making is going to be incredibly profound for an exact situation like yours. You've got an injury, it's jiu-jitsu related, it's knee. We need to do a lot. We need to do a lot of movements that are going to require hands-on for PT. You're going to be with a clinician, and then you need to be able to do a backward sled push. You got to be able to do it. When I go into a PT clinic, at least the ones I've seen, it's by and large equipment that sort of falls short of the line of true recovery, which has to be, as you know, you regress, then progress again. That progression can only go so far if you're limited to just, half a dozen tables, some massage equipment, and maybe some plyo balls.
And in your opinion, would you say that's done purposely just to keep people around longer?
Interesting. It may be my opinion now. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, just a thought. Because from my experience of having to go to a PA just to get clear to get an MRI.
Oh, that process is so backwards.
Maybe I don't even have to talk about it.
No, please, seriously.
I mean, I don't know, so yeah.
I would, yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell him.
So the first time I had a scare like this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and the inside of my knee popped. Not nearly as intense, but it popped, and I went in to see the doctor or the PA or whoever, and basically by a touch of my knee told me that like everything was like blown. I'm like, oh, and at the time I was young, I didn't have much experience on the matter, and I freaked out. I remember crying in my car, just like thinking everything was like done for the next year. And then come back this time, with a much different perspective, with a much more serious knee injury too, mind you.
At that time, it wasn't. The PA was wrong.
Yeah. So and then the MRI came back, and then the guy's like, I don't see anything here. There's nothing going on. I'm like, how? Like, because I was under the impression I was about to get surgery, and I remember there being a pop. So then I was confused on how there was a pop, but nothing showed up on the MRI, and so that was that. I don't necessarily expect the MRI this time around to be as perfect. However. This time around, different perspective. Come in, he feels my knee, basically tells me everything besides my MCL, the one area that I actually feel pain and restriction is torn through. And then basically just tells me rice and then move on.
Which is, I mean, it's like not. I think rice has gotten a really bad name because of the fact that it's been really dispelled. But I do think it has a place.
So there's components
to it that still need to be followed. It's now everybody's like, oh no, don't get in an ice bath, don't do contrast, just get out. That's been debunked. I'm like, no, it hasn't. No. Like that's not your end all be all answer to your problem, but you shouldn't not do it at all.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Mention something like that, and then no recommendation of what I could be doing actively to improve it, type of thing. Basically, just wait for the MRI, then get the surgery, and then rice and repeat again. That to me is missing things for sure. But the concept of rice between rice and ice, or not rice, rest and ice and compression and elevation, like all components that could definitely help
you. Yeah.
But the movement is, there should be an M in there somewhere.
Yeah. Rice 'em.
Yeah. Rice 'em. Exactly.
There you go. We'll start that off right now. Someone trademark that. To your earlier point about the MRI, there is a huge, and this is more of a medical malpractice, I think, than anything else. Because I've gone through the exact same thing you're going through.
Really?
Several times. Oh, yeah. Knees, elbows, shoulders, ankles. I've broken or torn a bunch of stuff in my time. Anytime an injury occurs, the very first... And there's this there's this protocol you have to actually go through, as you know, to actually get just the basic information on what's wrong with you. It's like, all right, I got to go to my doctor. Then he's got to send me to an ortho. Then the ortho has to give me an x-ray, which means nothing. I'm like, all right, I don't need an x-ray, man. Yeah. This is ligament. I don't need it. Like, yeah, but we need to. Let's clear it with your insurance. Get your x-ray. Come back. I'll look at the x-ray, and we'll tell you what you already know, which is that you didn't need an x-ray.
Yeah.
Then we'll get you an MRI. Then you'll come back. So now, by the time all that's happened, I've been to see my ortho twice, my main guy twice, an x-ray, and I've gotten an MRI. When in reality, it should be go to my main guy or my ortho, go get an MRI.
Yes.
There should be 2 visits to figure out what's wrong with you.
Verbatim exactly what happened on both occasions, essentially. Yeah. And I remember him feeling my leg around, and he's like pulling on it, and he's like, you're guarding, just relax. I'm like, I'm already aware that my knee hurts. I'm not going to let you pull on it and make it hurt more. I'm sorry. You know?
No. I'm very skeptical with who I let handle anything.
Yeah, seriously.
The first thing I tell him, like, look, I don't even need you to, just don't even touch, just write on your little magic pad that I need an MRI. Let me leave here, and I'll come back to you with some information.
Seriously.
Can we agree to do that?
Yeah,
and they're
seriously.
like, no, we can't do that.
I know.
Do you think it's malpractice, or do you think it's they're kind of covering their own ass, making sure that like they check all the boxes so that you can't sue them later on?
Yeah, and I know that definitely has something to do with it. Maybe there's like a middle ground where you don't have to pull on my knees so much to where it's sore for the next 2 days. You know, that's like my main argument for it. It's like, okay, like I'm telling you this hurts. Like if you want to like do your touching to say you did it, like okay, but like let's not like make anything worse or just waste time essentially.
Mm-hmm. I think it falls more into the category of malpractice, specifically talking about the process to get an MRI. Because if you look at it from a financial standpoint for the insurance companies, for your doctors, for all of that stuff, 4 visits to them and 2 through your insurance to whatever scan lab you go to for your x-ray and MRI. That's a hell of a lot more money than just saying, okay, something's hurt, here's an MRI. Dude, an MRI takes 20 minutes, and it's sitting in a tube.
Yeah.
That should not... First of all, it should be privatized. I should be able to go get an MRI anytime I want.
Yeah, just because,
Why in the world is it... Explain to me how that is a liability for the doctor. For me to go and get a scan to bring to you to say, here's what's up. Now, I understand if they were like, okay, I want to see you first once, then I'll send you to get an MRI. That makes sense to me. It would be almost, I think, irresponsible for you to just send me without even seeing me. That's the way I would like it, but I'm me. I don't really like anyone telling me anything that I don't already know. But the fact that it's this giant circus that you have to jump through these hoops, and everyone has to do it. No one's immune to this, unless you're like The Rock.
Yeah.
He has an image. Do you know about this? He has his own like MRI machine, like ready for
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, he talked about it when he was pumping up the LA Lakers for one of his like motivational speeches a way back, and he was talking about his which I want to talk about this too. He was talking about his last match with John Cena where he popped his adductor came off.
Oh,
he ripped it entirely off. Yeah, The Rock did. So he basically, and his sob story is like both intense but also hilarious because you're like, oh, that must be nice.
Yeah.
It happened to him. He's like, as soon as it happened to me, I got right into the jet. I flew home. I got right into my MRI just to figure out. I'm like, wow, listen to that answer.
Yeah.
Like, man, what a hard life. I got in my jet and then I got in my MRI machine. So, but the point is, for someone like that, unless you can pay $500,000 to have your own MRI machine, you have to go through that. But that's a nice actually transition to what I wanted to ask you because of what you're going through now and what you're trying to do with your future in Austin. What would you say is a more dangerous activity, WWE or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have a lot of crossover with the movements that you're doing with one and the other? Are they? They seem different.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge difference. Just in general, moving your body, that's like the chain link, I think, between the two. But in regards to your question, I think realistically, the more dangerous as far as what things could go wrong more commonly would be the pro wrestling, just because it's almost counterintuitive, but you would think working with somebody to keep you safe would in turn keep you more safe. But there's just the movements, as you said, are so different. Instead of like rolling on the ground or doing a takedown from ground level.
See if you can pull up some of the most crazy WWE acrobat. For anyone, I don't know anybody who doesn't, but anyone who doesn't really follow the WWE, it is like a crossover between like real Olympic wrestling and like a trapeze artist.
Yes, right.
Like anybody who says, the argument, well, that's fake. I'm like, Well, okay. I mean, kinda, not really. I mean, that guy is definitely 260
Yes.
pounds, and he is landing on that other guy who's 240 pounds.
Yes.
You said WWE what?
WWE.
You can look up. So my friend Maya, her dad Brock Lesnar, who obviously you know, he did a shooting star press on Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
So Brock Lesnar, and then what?
Shooting star.
Shooting
press.
star.
Yeah, you'll see him. So basically, yeah.
There you go. What is a shooting star press?
So you'll see him go for it, and he basically
This one?
misses, and
The top
yeah,
one?
the top one.
Top one. Okay. Wow, that is a big man. Wait a minute. Is he gonna jump on him?
Ugh.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So basically, land on his face. I'm pretty sure he broke something in his neck, or obviously something went wrong there. But I mean, in this particular case, you're conscious enough to carry on the match, so then you got to carry on the match because there's millions of people watching.
But he's hurt.
Yeah.
In this particular case,
yeah, he's hurt.
he hurt something.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a gainer, like a
Yeah,
jumping
right.
forward backflip to land. Was that the goal? Is to do jump forward backflip and
then
land
flat on
the guy? So he
yeah.
didn't rotate enough.
That, and I think he just either he didn't jump enough or Kurt Angle wasn't close enough to like land on. You know.
But you see that? That
It sounds horrible.
that is a high risk activity.
Totally.
Your odds of, I feel like your odds of not getting hurt are way. That is intense.
Even if you do it perfectly, that's still gonna hurt landing on someone.
Yeah,
doing
absolutely.
that.
Jumping off of a 5-foot rope, like up off the
He's
ground.
also like sub 300 pounds at the time, I believe, too. Which is insane.
For someone who's never even been in that ring has to have some give to it, right?
There's a little bit of give.
A little bit-
It's basically like a wood board underneath, and then like 2 inches of padding or something like that. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not probably what your average fan would think. Like from the outside looking in, they probably think it's much more padded.
I'm sure that 2 inches is really gonna break his fall. My
How
God.
big is Brock Lesnar? What's he weigh?
I think in that one he was like sub 300 or something like that. Yeah, so it's like,
Oh my.
yeah,
Even if he landed perfectly, I'd be like, okay.
yeah. I know.
Even if he
Seriously.
did it perfectly executed,
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's it. He
Right.
wins. I should have never gotten in this ring.
Yeah, seriously.
Well,
Seriously.
I hope we never see a video of you doing that.
I appreciate. Yeah,
Getting
and
hurt.
that's where
I hope we do.
Getting hurt.
Maybe not getting hurt, but
Yeah.
I would love to see
landing
it.
it. Yeah. They do have some luxury in being able to dictate what moves they do. Thankfully, I'm sure he was just in the moment and knew he could do it, and it's just a freak accident.
So you can choreograph the whole match
A lot
beforehand?
of times, yes, for the most part. I know WWE is much more particular in what is choreographed, obviously with how big they are, but a lot of the independent wrestling scenes, the wrestlers have much more independence over what moves they're doing, and in sense, so this is where it gets into the topic of fake and choreographed. Like choreographed would be more of an appropriate term because of the fact that they're deciding how the match is going to end, or they're deciding specific moves, but fake to me insinuates that the bumps are fake or the landings are fake.
Yeah.
All of that is obviously very, very much real. The impact is real and everything like that. So.
It's a show. I don't really see why there's this big I don't even understand why people compare it to like Olympic wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not. That's the
It's
totally
different
totally
things.
different
Yeah.
things. It's like Cirque du Soleil. It's like, is that fake? No, that's
No, yeah.
real. They're really climbing
Yeah.
up there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's choreographed,
Right.
but it's still real.
Yeah. I just saw one of those shows too. Yeah, it's amazing.
Really?
Which one did you
Yeah.
see?
Which one did you see?
The water one.
Is it in Vegas?
Yeah.
I don't. It wasn't a water one, and my girlfriend would get mad 'cause I don't remember, but it was for her birthday. But it was. No, I couldn't tell.
Was
you.
it like a pirate one or what?
Yes, it was kind of like a pirate type
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Did you see the same one?
No, it was between the water one and the pirate one.
I know it's
Is
really
it called the
famous.
pirate one?
No, it's not called the pirate one.
I know it's really famous. I know it's really well known for sure.
They're all good.
Yeah.
Really.
I
Yeah, it
really
was
would love to
amazing.
see one. I never have. It seems
It
incredible.
would be a lot better than seeing Black Adam. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, we talk about that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, The Rock. There's a guy. I mean, if nothing else, you could want to strive to emulate his whole career. The guy has had an
absolutely.
amazing, amazing career.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Who do you
Yeah,
think did it
just-
better, Arnold or him? Because they did it different.
And what?
I mean, how about life? It's like they're different,
Mm-hmm.
but they do have a lot of similarities. I mean, they both started in something other than acting, transitioned in,
Mm-hmm.
made a huge. It's interesting because they have some similarities.
I'd say The Rock.
Probably.
Yeah, I think it might depend. It might depend on how you equate or calculate like success, because being in two slightly different areas, like Rock started right before the social media era, but he's started to boom in the social media era, whereas Arnold, outside of politics, for the most part, has been kind of out of the acting and everything else, the bodybuilding and stuff. Whereas like now, a professional bodybuilder, say C-Bum, for example, can get 13 million followers on Instagram just from winning the Olympia like 4 times. And Arnold,
he did awesome.
He looked so good.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
amazing.
Can you pull up his page, his picture, his winning pose?
So I think about guys like that, and I wonder like
His most muscular was incredible.
I wonder if Arnold was in the same era where he would be at. So
Like if he was Chris's age and did this,
with the
he
social
looks
media being the way
outstanding.
it is, yeah.
who would you say is your favorite Mr. Olympia? Who would you say had the best physique?
Best physique,
Yeah.
open bodybuilding. Like I have to go to Ronnie Coleman just because of the.
That's what he won, right? Was open? Or-
No, he won. He won
classic
Open. Yeah,
classic open.
yeah. Ronnie Coleman, because of the ridiculous size, but also like the training that he did to obviously get there. That's something that I just like, obviously, with the heavy training and stuff. That gets into a different conversation.
Yeah,
But
man.
Ronnie Coleman for sure. I just recently became friends with Flex Lewis, so I definitely love
Did
what
you
he
really?
did. Yeah.
Oh, sick, man! You gotta hook me up with him. I'd love to have him on here.
Yeah,
that'd be
he's
sick.
so nice, so
Is
nice.
he a cool guy?
He reminds me a lot of Goldberg, honestly, as far as like humbleness and humility and
That's
stuff
awesome.
like that. Very nice guy for
That's
sure.
really cool.
Yeah, you have to if you're in Vegas, Dragon's Lair is a great gym. I would definitely check.
Is
out.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got to make a trip up there. I missed, obviously, just with everything going on. I had plans to actually go this year to Mr.
okay.
O. I wanted to.
Mhm.
Did you ever go? You ever see Mr. O?
I'd never seen the show. I've been to the expo a few times. My suggestion, actually, coming back from it, is buy a day pass every day to Dragon's Lair and just sit there and just let every single influencer come and funnel through there and then talk to whoever you want to talk to and network with.
Really?
Yes. At the Olympia, you'll obviously see people just so scattered around. It's hard to really get people's attention, but every single popular bodybuilder, Instagram guy, TikTok guy, whatever, just funnels into Dragon's Lair, and it looks like an EOS at peak hours in a bodybuilding gym, but filled with just like bodybuilders.
Just the biggest people,
Yeah,
men
but
and women in the whole industry.
It's phenomenal for networking. I scored a couple good opportunities myself over there, so like I definitely would, if going back, I would have just done that, honestly. Yeah.
You kind of could just sit there and be like,
Just
all right, and what do
yeah.
you do?
Literally.
Everybody walking in there.
Yeah.
That would get exhausting.
Yeah, it
because
would,
it
for
would
sure.
be just like meeting interactions over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if nothing else, it would be an incredible networking opportunity to go there. No,
Yeah.
we need to make plans, I think, in the next couple years to head out that way. It'd be great to pick up just guests.
I agree. Yeah.
Anybody
I
just
think you'll
get
be
your
able
name out and
Meet
stuff.
a lot of great people.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
No, you gotta let me know when you do you have any plans to maybe, I don't know, reach out to Joe Rogan or anything when you're out there? Or?
That's maybe a goal I didn't talk about, but that's also like one of my goals too, is to get on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've been talking about that for a long time. So I'm hoping
us
at one
too.
point that comes to fruition for sure. But as he talks about, he doesn't have anyone on there that he doesn't like. It doesn't matter how big your following is or whatever. So
He's been talking about that a lot recently. Rogan has. I don't know why it keeps coming up, but people keep asking him like how he selects his guests, and he's always saying, he's like, "Yeah, I don't care about your social media. If I think you're doing something cool, I want to talk to you."
which I think is awesome, honestly, and that's why I'm grateful for people like yourself or Mark Bell for giving somebody like me an opportunity to just get a start in the bigger podcasting world.
Yeah,
I'm very, very grateful. Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course, bro. Well, it's our pleasure, and
Thank
this has been such a fun and rewarding endeavor. I didn't think it would be this way. To sincerely sit here, I could tell you that if I transitioned 90% away from training and just dove into this to me is so much fun.
Right.
Just being able to talk and meet. I say this a couple times. I know I probably say it too much. Every new guest that I have on here, I get to learn something from.
Wow, that's awesome.
And you don't fully really... Rogan had talked about that before, and I got it. It sort of clicked, but it didn't really click until we really started doing it. And now that we're kind of getting some traction and we're booking out, we're getting some really good people that are actually coming here. That was the twofold rewarding experience for this, is A, figuring out, now people will actually come here. That's great. I didn't think, honestly, when we did this, I was like, damn, we better make this really sexy, because I don't know if anybody's going to actually travel here to come on. And then realizing that each time someone new comes on, I get to have a conversation and I get to hear what they're doing. And I think that's really a lot of what I learned from watching the JRE is how he is as a host, is really just to kind of play sort of the educated fool, kind of like a total open mind. And that's what he does so well.
That's honestly, that's a great way to put it. Like educated, like, because obviously very smart, successful guy. He knows what he's talking about, obviously, but he's also smart enough to understand that he's not educated in everything, and that's something I try to preach too. So in regards to this, as much as you might learn from me, I'm learning just as much from you, going back and forth between you guys. That's why I like the podcasting, because it should be interactive in that sense. And I thought about that too when I was on Mark Bell's, is like, those guys have people coming in, you know, every day, every other day, just like these extremely successful people. So that alone is just like, it's just as good as reading a book or listening to a podcast. Like, yeah, in my opinion, better, because I hate reading. But
yeah. Me too.
Yeah, so I can only imagine all the things that they've picked up, you know, and it's incredible. I'm glad to be doing something similar and kind of scratching the surface a little bit. I hope to do something kind of similar to what you're doing once I've settled down in a space. I mean, if you really think about it, in Arizona, there's definitely, obviously, nothing like this anywhere, but in Arizona, there's not necessarily a main draw to where you think about Vegas. You got like Dragon's Lair. That's a gym that everyone wants to check out. Like, this is obviously your house, but like there's demand for anyone to want to check this out.
Yeah, buddy.
So with that said too, that goes into like farther goals of myself, staying a few years in Austin, building myself up there, and then having a legitimate like gym for myself that represents me for Arizona, like on the west side, you know, so where tourists are coming in or whoever, they feel like they have like a Dragon's Lair to go to or a Mark Bell's gym to go to, like that type of thing. Because I feel like there's great gyms in Arizona, but there's not necessarily a singular face representing a gym, and I would like to be one of the first to do so at some point in the future.
Absolutely. Oh, I think you'd be great for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and having a space that's your own is truly a one-of-a-kind experience. As you grow, and once you start doing that, you'll figure it out once you start doing this, that when it's unilaterally controlled by the vision that you have, it's a blessing and a curse, because obviously if it fails, well, who do you blame? And when it succeeds,
right, exactly,
then who gets to take even just kind of the subliminal credit for that? You get to see the success grow around you and see your vision come, you know, full circle. There's very few things as rewarding as that,
I'm sure. Yeah.
And having, like you said, I don't see too many places doing stuff like this really anywhere.
No.
But having a location where you can have the face-to-face interaction, and, you know, to your earlier point about reading, like, for me, it's like, okay, would I rather read, or would I rather reach out to the author of the book and have them come here and tell me about their book? I'd rather do that.
Yeah,
because for me, I learn so much more from face-to-face interaction. I digest so much more. You ask me to read a book, I can do it, but it's definitely not my favorite format. And I really loved what Mark and Nsima and Andrew had done out there. This was a reflection of our time when we went out there.
I can tell.
We wanted to make the same kind of experiences for whoever it is, for that author, for the influencer. I wanted someone to come here, feel like they could talk about whatever it is they're doing, and you'll find as well, if you do this kind of a setup where you have both podcast and gym, it will also help you a lot with collaboration for your gym itself.
Right.
What we have found really beneficial is working with these big fitness equipment manufacturers or CEOs or anything like that, where most of the time they have never even like been on a podcast. They don't have any idea. They're like, yeah, man, I make the XPT rack. That's my thing. Like, I don't really, like, hey, well, guess what? I mean, we would like to have that here. Why don't you come out with your piece? Come and talk to me about it. We'll have a conversation, then you can put it in the gym.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's you'll see that'll really, really help. And you've already built so much of the back end on what you need to just do this. You would have a really easy time with the transition.
I appreciate it. And that's why I'm confident in transitioning into the online coaching and stuff like that. And I mean, that's
going to happen like that. That's going to be so fast for you. Right, that's going to be the easy part.
Thank you. I get asked quite frequently about the online coaching and programs and anything, and now it's just really just committing to actually doing it. And, you know, but that's why, like, again, moving to Austin forces me to commit to something like this, because I won't have the in-person clientele to rely on, at least not right away. And it's good for me, but even more importantly, it's great for my friends, because I'll find a way to integrate them into the business as well, to where they can truly encompass the vision that I wanted for my How Strong brand to begin with, which is to actually pave careers for the 3 best friends that I've had with me essentially my entire life. So like I talked about this the other day with them, like this business idea that I had where we want to take our clothing, and I'm like, if you guys want to make this your career, this is like a very, very easy, clear first step to where we can start doing that. Then everything else picks up, and then we can start branching out more from there. But everyone was on board, so I'm actually very excited for this next chapter of How Strong and myself and everything. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on it.
Of course, bro.
Man.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
And like I said, I think you're going to do good no matter where you go and no matter what you do. And that's why, again, the back end of everything you've done is so important, because you can, your brand is you, and you can take that to Austin. You can take it to Vegas. You can bring it here. You can do anything you want. That'll always follow you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's awesome, bro. I'm really happy for you.
I appreciate that a lot. I was thinking to myself, actually, in regards to the podcast, it's interesting. This just popped in my head. It's a completely random thought, but it's a compliment to the podcast setup here. I think that people almost don't think about this, but when you watch Mark Bell or you watch Joe Rogan, it's almost like the setup is like its own version of the co-host, to where like the setup is like part of it. You know, like if you see Mark Bell's setup, it's like just symbolic. Like, oh, this is Mark Bell's. Somebody's important and is about to be on here, and then this now gives you guys that same opportunity, I think, or it allows you to start getting that type of reputation. You've had a handful of friends actually in the last few months, between Midwest Kong, I met him at CT's, Andrew, obviously, Rudy from Selfmade, Josh. Yeah, I think it's great what you're doing, obviously bringing big people in to help promote your brand, but also giving people that are here local an opportunity to help grow themselves as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to give back is just give them an opportunity to speak, because most people starting out just don't have that opportunity or don't have the online credibility for people to buy it. But being on something like this with somebody with the credibility as you, then makes their words more relevant, even though
100%.
Nothing changed. But you get what I'm saying.
And you never ever as the host or as any position of authority in this kind of a format, I never wanted to dictate who would be a guest purely based on how they were online or what they were doing. It's a factor, but again, for me, I relate so much to what the JRE, what their stance is on how just interesting people. There was an example I had. There's another host in Arizona. He's got a podcast, and I remember at one time, I think it was even before we were doing a podcast, we had some interaction online, and I just remember he said something to the effect of like, well, I don't really know anything about you, and I don't know anything about you. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, you can figure out about me in about 15 minutes. I know a lot about you.
Right.
Like, what's and I remember what a sour taste that left in my mouth as a potential guest.
Yeah.
And I just told myself in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I don't ever want to do this to somebody. If somebody, because you'll realize when you start doing this, that you will have people who ask to be on, that maybe it's not in your best interest as an entity to have them on. But I never wanted to come off as rude or arrogant or anything like that to that person. And I always wanted to at least extend some kind of a, let's maybe think about it. Let's you can come in, you can meet with me. We'll see. I want to hear about what you're doing, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's a big important thing. And it's really, you have to kind of be in the host position to realize that possible problem.
That's great advice.
Yeah. It happened to us a little quicker than I thought it would. I didn't ever, honestly, in the beginning, I was like, because I didn't know if anybody would even come on. I'm like, well, if anybody wants to come on, I'll have anybody on.
Yeah.
But as you start to fill up, you just, you kind of have to just be a little bit more selective. I found, by the way, again, I'm just attracted to people doing weird things. I have to show you this. Can I commandeer the mirror one more time? There is a girl, and she's local. She is it's the most interesting thing I think I've seen on social media, truly, in years. Let me see if I can find her page.
What does she do?
She is a medieval weapons specialist.
Like she creates welds
fights
it and
with
stuff?
swords.
Wow.
I'm serious. I saw her page. Here she is. Yes. You have to see this person's page. I saw this and I reached out to her immediately. I was like, hey, you don't know who I am, but we need to get to know one another right now. Awesome. You are doing some of the coolest stuff. Look at this girl's page. So she's doing really good.
Interesting.
She,
wow.
But see, for me, someone like this is so incredibly entertaining to me. Like I have no knowledge as to what this
Is this like a specific facility for this?
dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It is. Where is it? It's this place. More. How do you say that? Mordu Historical Combat.
Wow.
This is in Arizona.
I'm surprised I haven't heard about this.
Dude, I'd never heard about this until today.
Yeah.
Look at the stuff she's doing. Where's the one of her fighting this dude? They literally, they like, that's her practicing. That's her practicing. She does like fencing. I haven't seen this. Oh, it's a photo op. But this is just again, this is a perfect example of somebody who,
Yeah.
maybe look at. I'm sorry, I haven't seen all of this, and this is just incredible to me.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And now, with having this, gives me the opportunity to reach out to someone like this who, maybe she's about the gym, maybe she's not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
No.
I can get her in here and I can learn from her. I have so many questions about what she's doing.
Yeah.
Where are you doing it? Why are you doing it? How did you get into this? Like all of that stuff can come out in a podcast.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
man,
awesome.
you got to do it. You got to do it, and then
I'm
you got to have
excited.
me on. I
That's
got to come
great.
out there and
Yeah, I love
come
that.
out to Austin.
Obviously, you guys prefer in person. Would you ever do somebody like that's like elsewhere?
We've had a lot of big name people, Gunner, Seedman. They've all asked. I don't want to. I don't want to do it, and it's not at all like a pride thing. Like I don't want them to think like I'm like, nah, that's beneath my platform or anything like that. For one, to me, again, the face-to-face thing, I absorb so much more from what the person is telling me. The content is clearly superior. I mean, and as you know, when you watch our channel, the visuals are quite a thing.
Yeah.
It's all very, very, very visual with what we do here. Having someone in person is just a far superior experience.
Yeah.
It's why Joe Rogan doesn't do any remote stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to go on his show, travel to Austin.
Yeah, totally.
And if you and this is another last little bit of information that I would convey to you if you do decide to go for this. If you decide to do this, just go all out. Get the vision for what you want it to look like, how you want it to sound, the equipment you want to use, and you can reach out, man. I'll tell you anything you want to know about this stuff. I knew nothing about this when I first started doing it, but have everything that you want in your budget and your vision ready to go before you go, because what I found is that because that is how we did this, the response from the community is much, much higher than just, microphone, table, one camera. Maybe they come, maybe they don't, but most likely you're going to be stuck in that remote phase.
I see.
Reaching out, I just finally, for the first time, I got in touch with Chris Duffin from Kabuki.
Oh, wow.
It's the first time he's ever responded, but he was like, because I sent him like our little spiel with some videos and stuff, and he was like, okay, this interests me. Like, do you only do in person? And I was like, yes, here's where it's at and everything. And he's like, okay, it's in Phoenix. All right, well, let me get back to you. But yeah, I'd like to do it.
Wow.
This is the result you'll get if you do take this just all the way on the first go. And it's the way I wish I would have done a lot of other things. A lot of ventures like with the gym, most of that stuff has gone through a ton of different iterations and transformations instead of just going kind of in the beginning, just go
Makes
for
sense.
it. So that's what I would advise the last little piece.
About how much do you, well, I guess not this, but the equipment alone, how much did that turn out to be?
For
excluding the sauna, pool, and
no, are you talking just
yeah,
podcast?
I'm sorry, just like podcast equipment like what we got
my
going
fault.
on here.
It's probably for what's in this room. Probably about 40, probably about that.
Wow,
somewhere around
Gotcha.
there. There's a lot of stuff you don't really factor in, and
Yeah,
again, I mean,
sure.
he's 7, so so right there, you don't need him.
Yeah.
But for us,
Right.
when I did it, I looked at what I loved about what. I keep bringing this up, but what the JRE does, with that werewolf that they all pose in front of, I was like, we need something like that for our place.
Makes sense.
And that immediately stood out to me.
Yeah.
So that's what we did here. You could slice and dice that into about half. And I managed to cut back a little bit on that cost because, again, I built everything in here. This was like a YouTube college 3 to 4 month process to learn, because this was totally foreign to me. I know nothing. I still kind of don't. I know more than I did, but this is not my world.
Yeah, totally.
Sound and editing, and he taught himself the editing process for
Nice, that's
Final
awesome.
Cut Pro
Good
and how to manage the Blackmagic soundboard and everything. And did you watch Andrew's podcast?
I did, yeah.
He was great. He coming in here because this is him.
Yeah.
This is like his whole world. He and him are like the same type of thing.
Yeah.
And he was just, he loved it. He was enamored by it, but he was saying, he's like, yeah, I can appreciate what's going on in here because I've done it on my end.
Right.
And it's a lot of work.
I'm sure. Yeah.
As much as it is an investment of money, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to want, just like with online training, you're going to want to bring in someone with you. If not a co-host, then certainly an operator.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order to do it.
Totally. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about too. We did get a few microphones and whatnot, but now after being here, there's definitely things that could be added to, like you said, just have something very, very solid from the get-go to where like it's appealing to anyone just because of the setup.
And pick your space very selectively. Find a place. Don't do it how we did it in there. That was a nightmare. Yeah, you do not want to have a mobile podcast setup. You want to have a room, even like a tiny little, if you have a guest room in your apartment or something like that. Have a space that you can build around and keep, at least for an extended period of time while you're in Austin. If you're in Austin for 2 years, great. Yeah. You can build your podcast in under 2 years, for sure. Yeah. But do it in a spot that you can actually manage permanently.
Okay.
And one thing I'd also recommend, this Blackmagic, obviously this is a lot bigger because we have multiple cameras, but if it's just one guest and you don't have me, you don't have like the TV and everything, get the mini version of this, and that way whoever is sitting in this seat, they will be able to edit pretty much live, and then once this episode is done, like the raw footage and everything will be done within a few hours to basically upload, and then I'll chop it up into multiple clips. But this just makes it really easy to basically edit in real time, and you can do way more podcasts by having this accessible to
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very good.
Yeah, it's I think the mini ranges right around 800, I think, if I'm correct. Maybe you could pull that up. The cost of the Blackmagic Mini. But while it is a larger startup cost, there's two ways to do this, and we touched on this on Andrews. You can do the editing live, or you can pay the editing to happen post-op. So if you pay someone to do your editing after you do the episode, you're going to pay more per episode. I mean, a cheap editor is like $150 an episode. That's cheap. Yeah. You will want to take that money, and while it's more startup cost up front, you're going to want to purchase something like that so that you can do your live edits, and you'll still have some stuff on the back end. I mean, Eli, what is your process when you have the edited format video, because that basically takes all the cameras, syncs them based on who he's pointing it at, and does it all together on a card. Then afterwards, you add our logo, you eliminate background noise.
Yeah, so it's actually even simpler than that. And to answer your question about the mini Black Mini, that's going to range anywhere from like 200 to 500 depending on the seller.
What's the big one?
Over.
The big one's
that
800?
That one's close to around 1200. 800 to 1200.
Got
so, I mean, if you could see my screen right now I'm basically editing. You won't be able to. It's the screen right here. How I edit is I have OBS, which is basically a streaming free service that you put on a MacBook or a Windows, but that's going to be filming all the cameras and the audio, everything like that. It's going to be recording. I have the logo permanently on 24/7, so it's basically I don't have to add anything. Once I'm done, I'll end it, remux it, make it into an MP4, upload it to Final Cut Pro, take the SD card out of the soundboard, plug it in, upload it to Final Cut, crop the edges, and then like with this episode, there was like a few minutes in between that I'm going to crop out. Not every episode has that. Some are pretty good all the way through, and then it's just crop.
I mean, how much time would you say per episode you have to spend?
Well, it depends on how. So, with Brandon Copeland, that we just finished that one took probably like 5 or 6 hours, but I also made 15 videos from that podcast. And
that's the other thing.
It's a lot.
You will have
and everything.
Yes, you will. We had to open a second Instagram for just the podcast. You will have a never-ending option of content to mirror what you're already doing. And what you're already doing is great. But now you will have a revenue of just new content that you can choose to put on your main page or keep on the podcast page. But regardless, you can now start realistically posting twice a day.
I see.
without even breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
You'll just have that new stream of content. So
Interesting.
it's really,
That's awesome.
really good.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, and having a second account is wise, just because you don't want your audience to dislike. I mean, obviously they're not going to dislike it, but if it's just over flooding with all of the video content when they want to see you working out and everything, you don't want to basically cut your audience in half.
Saturate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't want to oversaturate it.
Makes sense. Totally.
Sick, man. Well, where can people find you? If they want to see your page, if they want to follow you, if they want online coaching, where do they go?
Yeah, so obviously you guys pulled up my Instagram, jhouse182. That leads into the website, jimmyhouse.com. That's going to have the online coaching options as well as programming and whatnot. That should launch here in a few months. In the meantime, we do sell merchandise. We have our YouTube that's recently being revamped, so we're posting a lot of free, great informational content on there. Right here, we have a nice sky view of Phoenix.
I got it.
Is it you? Or it's, okay.
No, it went to. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Here's Jimmy's Instagram.
Yeah, no problem. Other than that, those are the main ones. I do have a few sponsors, including Field Supplements, discount code being House Strong in all caps, SeatGeek being House Strong, Vivo Barefoot being House Strong, and then Rare Breed Life being JHouse10 for clothing and whatnot. So if you want to look any of those up, but that's basically it.
Nice, bro.
Thank you guys very much.
Outstanding.
That
Yeah,
was
man.
awesome.
Our pleasure.
Thank you guys so much.
Sweet. We'll cut it there.